Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Freedom Blueprint Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Deese, and I have a friend of the show. So this is the third time he has been on the show, which is really cool and really amazing. And I feel like every time we have an episode, we kind of have a really good conversation. So, Brigham, welcome to the show again, my man.
Thanks, Justin. It's good to be back.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard the other episodes, Brigham was on episode 53, where we talked a little bit about his journey into starting. You know, Brigham is the founder and the CEO of Power Selling Pros, and that episode was really about how that started. And then he came back on episode 84, and we just talked about unlocking potentials of your CSRs, because I mean that's the first line of defense when a customer calls. So we talked about that. So I asked Brigham to come back again today because obviously the world we live in right now, AI is everywhere. AI is all the talk. It's getting so much smarter by the minute. And I just wanted to kind of kick around a little bit on how is that going to affect customer service in the future? What is that going to look like? So he said, yeah, man, let's go. And we're just going to dive in a little bit. But AI, my man, what you think?
You know, it's funny. I was in Australia recently. The whole story behind it is wild because Scott Irwin, who is basically a pioneer of, say, for example, Service Titan, using it in Australia, one of the first ones to use it in Australia, and so he carries a lot of clout, right? He's got a great relationship with Ara, with Vahe, and he is working with Ellen Rohr to bring Service Titan to Australia. But he's also doing his own events as well so that he can, in a way, prep contractors to get comfortable with technology in general. The learning curve here is steep. Well, the learning curve there is twice as steep. What happened to us in 2021 with PR groups and all that stuff is going to happen a whole lot quicker there as well. And so Scott is doing everything he can to get contractors in general ready for that boon in business for everybody, which means they've got to be up to date using a CRM. They've got to understand what's available to them as far as technology is concerned. And so he did his own event, his own summit. And he said, Brigham, I need you to come out. I need you to speak at the summit. I'm like, okay. It's not cheap to go to Australia, Scott. What's the plan? He's like, don't worry about it. Just book the flight. I'll take care of the rest. And so I said, hey, okay, cool. I'm going to take my wife because she has never been to Australia. And he's like, awesome. Bring her. Fantastic. So we fly out. He keeps us awake on day one, the whole day, because when it's day here, it's night there. So we probably ate 5 times at 5 different restaurants, and he was just keeping us awake the whole time. Incredible host, right? So we go to bed, around 9 p.m., go to sleep, wake up the next morning, and he says, okay, I've got your flights booked. I'm like, wait a minute. You don't know my birthday. You don't have my driver's license. What do you mean you booked flights for me? He says, oh, well, you don't need any of that here in Australia. He literally booked my flights without any of that information. And so we go to this place called Albury, which is a 2-hour flight. We get there, and all the those birds that you usually see in cages, the green ones, the really pretty, like little parakeets? Mm-hmm. Well, they were all over on the trees everywhere. And so the back of my head, I'm going, this is the coolest place on the planet. So on day one of this summit, we went to Tonkin. It's a heating and cooling plumbing company in Albury, Australia. Super cool people. Shane and James are the owners of that company. So we get there, and I'm going through this tour, a shop tour. Everybody's been through a shop tour. Mm-hmm. Well, I start to see Pattern for Excellence posters everywhere. And all of a sudden I'm realizing as I'm going through this tour, wait a minute, Tonkin is a client of Power Selling Pros. I didn't even know. So I'm going through, and all of a sudden James and Shane, as they go through their tour, they're explaining how Power Selling Pros is helping their CSRs, book calls, and wow customers. And then there's probably about 25 contractors there, and they all turn around and they look at me, and they're like, "Oh, you're with Power." I was wearing a Power Selling Pros shirt that day, luckily, they're like, oh, you're with Power Selling Pros. Yeah, I'm with Power Selling Pros. And it's like, how long have you been with Power Selling Pros? Oh, 15 years. And all of a sudden, James is like one of the owners at Tonkin. He's like, no, you guys, that's Brigham. As if he didn't even know I was going to be there either. It was wild. So they're like, wow, awesome. So glad you're at the summit. I had to meet my wife. And so the next day I spoke. And when I was speaking, several hands went up while I was talking to them. And the biggest fear they had was AI.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Biggest fear. And what was the fear? The fear is that what happens when all these white collar, smart, intelligent, individuals with their business degrees and doctorates and so on and so forth, and these business savvy individuals are forced into the trades by AI. And I simply said, you guys, I don't care. I don't care. Look, they'll figure it out in 2 to 3 years that maybe the trades is where they should be. In the meantime, we have a window of opportunity where we can grow like mad so that by the time they do get to the trades, if that ever happens, okay, we're basically, speculating here big time. But even if that happens, you want to prepare yourself with the technology that's available to at our fingertips today to gladly give them a job.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a job. And of course, when they heard that, they're like, you're so right. You're so right. And it turned out to be really great. By the time I was done speaking, you should have seen it. My wife was actually walking around and I said, look at this. I don't know if anybody can see this. These are some of the agreements they filled out. I said, listen, fill it out to your comfort level. You've never met me before. Fill it to your comfort level and work it out later. And it turns out everybody signed up and my wife collected all the agreements. So I put her to work. It was awesome. It was a really cool experience. But look, the thing right now that we should not have is fear. Okay? 80% of what you fear never comes to fruition. It never comes true. Never. 80%. So what does that mean? Is that every time you feel any sort of fear, you got to ask it questions. And by asking it questions, you can determine whether or not if there's anything there that you should really be concerned about or prepare for, right? Right? Is that true? Is that possible? And if it's possible, in what scenario is it possible? And if you keep asking it questions, you'll find that fear will subside. And so that's my first impression as I consider that question, Justin.
Well, and so, people in general as a whole, they fear change just across the board, right? They fear change, and technology is not new. I mean, when computers came out, people were weird about it. When they went from the yellow pages to Google, people got weird about it, right? But generally what happens when technology becomes heavier in a space, what ends up happening is now there's more jobs and more position and more opening on the other side. So, I mean, there used to be people that delivered ice to houses. Mm-hmm. Well, there's not people that deliver ice anymore, but there's appliance repairmen now, and there's people that sell refrigerators. And so there's usually something that ties in when you embrace technology, but you definitely don't want to be the late adopter.
No, you do not.
Any of that kind of stuff. You don't always want to be the first, but you also don't want to stand on the sidelines and just do the old man thing. I'm not getting a computer. I'm not getting one of those website things. I'm not getting on that Google thing. If you want to grow your business, you got to pay attention to what's going on.
For sure. I mean, 10 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, there were very few $10 million companies. Mm-hmm. And because of technology, including Service Titan, we now have $100 million companies. We have $200 million companies. Parker,
quite a few of
Arizona.
them.
Yeah. So we've experienced incredible growth as well as incredible attention because of the technology. Does that mean we need to embrace all of it? No. We need to know what is there, what's available. We need to be testing it. We need to be listening to our peers and their experience with it, and do the best we can to keep our eyes open and use the stuff to the point that it makes sense, or use the technologies to the point that it makes sense. The biggest concern I have with AI is that we, in some cases, allow it to control us. So here's what I mean by that. Before you and I jumped on this podcast, we were talking about, say, for example, getting ready for a talk in church, or say, for example, a very serious conversation we want to have with our kids. We could absolutely allow AI, say, for example, ChatGPT, to consult us, to provide feedback. Say, for example, we're really angry. And if we yell at ChatGPT as opposed to our kid, that's a really good idea. It's a really good idea, right? It's a way for you to kind of count to 10 and slow it down, right? Slow your row a little bit. But if we let it tell us what to do, in other words, we let it become the master, as opposed to us maintaining our right as agents to act, as opposed to becoming servants who are acted upon. That is something that we need to be very, very careful about. Now, for some who are listening to this, it might be just kind of gobbledygook. Oh, Brigham, where are you going with this? Well, it's very simple. You guys, if we allow it to tell us what to do, and we are not pondering it in our hearts, we're not studying it out in our minds, we lose valuable opportunity to use our guts. You see, what we're talking about are things that AI will never have. They don't have a mind, they don't have a body, and they certainly don't have a spirit. And so we are agents. We were meant to be agents to act as opposed to being acted upon. And we should never allow our agency to be encumbered by AI or anything else or anyone else. So if we are taking shortcuts because of AI, say, for example, Rilla is a phenomenal product. It gives us the ability to listen to our texts without having to do ride-alongs. It is an incredible technology when used in the right way. However, if we leave it to their AI to provide feedback to our technicians and our comfort advisors, what they're using is a mathematical algorithm, and they're using probability. So they use that and they give feedback based on that probability. They do not know your technicians. Okay? They do not know how your technicians and comfort advisors feel. Only you can do that. Okay?
Or the hints that the technician should be picking up in the house, right? So as you're walking through a house, there's signals as a salesperson or a technician that you need to keep your eye on. I don't know that there would ever be a time that you could still go plug that in. That's still great information you want to use when communicating with the customer.
You got it. We need each other. Yeah. Humans need each other. And we need to use the tools such as AI, point that it makes sense, and not allow it to become the master. You're the master, you're the manager still, right? You're the service manager. You need to take time with Rick. Let it help you become more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, keep an eye on what your techs need individually, and use it to the point that it makes sense.
AI should be everybody. They should use it as a tool in their toolbox, but you as the person should still swing the hammer. You can use that. And I think so. A lot of times I think about spell check when people, because unfortunately some people will make something in AI and just put it out in the world without even taking a few minutes to read it, that's a terrible thing. Please don't do that if you're listening to this. But you think about even spell check, right? Like that's some old school AI technology. I mean, even today, spell check's been around for a long time. It's still not 100% accurate. There's still some times where it makes words up and you're like, I don't even know where that came from. So it is a tool in your toolbox. It still needs you to produce. It still needs your heart, your soul, your brain, your experience. AI is not going to have that.
No, it does not feel. It never will feel. So you've got to get in there and care enough for your team to feel with them and then reason with them And that's how learning goes. It's how it goes. Now, let me give you an example of this. So my wife has been sick a few times. You were talking about how you got sick after a vacation. So we've been out and about. We've been throughout the world. And when you travel, guess what? You're going to get exposed to viruses that your body isn't used to, and you're going to get sick. And it's going to impede your ability to achieve, say, for example, your physical goals. She has some, she's a nutritionist, right? She has some goals physically that she would like to achieve. And a few sicknesses and injuries have kept her from achieving those goals. She's to the point now where she's like, okay, I'm very serious. I want to go. She knows that AI is available. She knows that she can go onto ChatGPT and say, okay, ChatGPT, give me a training regiment, right? She's not doing that. She's like, I need to find a trainer that gets me, that understands me, and then can build a workout based on my specific needs. And what her needs are is to be understood. Her needs are to be cared about, and her needs are to be reassured that she can do it. And again, AI can help and assist the trainer with that. But at the end of the day, she knows in her heart of hearts that she needs another human. She needs a trainer. She needs somebody who's going to be there physically, right? Somebody who has a body, right? A body, a mind, and a spirit. And we can get really spiritual later. But for now, let's just focus in on the body. So look, if anything, AI should motivate you to take better care of your body, because guess what? You have one and AI does not. Okay. And the same is true with your mind. What are you doing everybody talks about the fact that you should read books on a regular basis, a book a week, so on and so forth. Well, we have the ability to consume books quicker than ever before, right? We can put it at 1.5 speed. We can even put it at 2, double speed and just let it rip while we're working out, right? There is so much opportunity to learn and to exercise our mind. And once again, with great power comes great responsibility. Thank you, Spider-Man. Right? We have That's great power. Like never before have we had this kind of power at any time in human existence. The question is what are we doing with this power? What are we doing with this ability? It's interesting. For thousands of years, we were using buggies, horses to get around. And all of a sudden, 200 years ago, something happened, something switched, something clicked. And we're the benefactors of whatever happened 2 years ago. And we can ponder and think about that as much as we want. But at the end of the day, why are we so lucky? Why are we so blessed? We need to ask ourselves that. We need to consider that. And then use our time wisely to strengthen our bodies as much as possible and strengthen our minds as much as possible. And of course, maybe what we do is we end with the spiritual side as well. Because the truth is our spirits have been around a whole lot longer than our bodies have been around. Obviously we don't remember what happened before this life. Part of the deal was we received amnesia. We don't remember. But just like going into surgery, they don't wake you up in the middle of it and say, "Hey, how you doing? Everything okay?
Yeah,
doing a great job." No, they don't wake you during the surgery. They wake you after it's done, after the process is completed. That's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. We got to figure it out as we go along.
So, you shared a quote with me. I don't know if you have it. You shared it with me earlier that I think would be pretty good at this point to share with the listeners.
Yeah. So Alan Klassen is a business coach, and he's the founder of LB Homes. And of course, he sold it for billions, but before he retired. But this is something he said in a podcast where they were talking about AI literally a month ago. And here's what he said. He said, if we don't keep the human element in a customer-centric business, we won't stay customer-centric for very long. Let's discuss two business models. There is the McDonald's model and the Chick-fil-A model. Both models work. Both models are very successful. All right, so let's talk about the McDonald's model first. When you go into a McDonald's now, there are two very big screens. All right. You don't interact with humans at all. All right. In fact, the humans that are back there making the food, when they deliver it to you, they don't even look at you in the eye. They say your name, they put it on the counter, and they go back to what they were doing. You don't know it, and I know it, and everybody's good with it. In fact, McDonald's has proven that when you go to the screen, you actually order more food than you would when you're talking to a human. So they've proven that those screens work and the model works for them. Okay. The other thing is that you won't wait in a line like you would at Chick-fil-A, and you pay less than you would at Chick-fil-A. Mm-hmm. The McDonald's model works. Now let's look at the Chick-fil-A model. The Chick-fil-A model, the biggest problem they have is keeping people in the line. So they lose customers that don't want to wait in the line. Some of those customers go to McDonald's. All right. So what do they need to do? Well, what they've done is they've doubled down on the amount of people ushering cars through the line. So you could be a mile back and they'll be taking your order.
And you'll be through there in 15 minutes.
Exactly. Exactly. So they're going to do their very best to get you through that line as quickly as possible. But they are also having you pay for your meal. You're committed now. They're having you pay for your meal a mile back in that line. So, and they're going to do it with a smile. They're going to say things like my pleasure and so on and so forth. In fact, there's one time I drove up to the window of a Chick-fil-A and I said, do you really for us to squeeze all that lemonade? And she didn't miss a beat. She said, absolutely. Would you like to try some? As if I had never tried it before. And I'm like, I was acting all coy. I was like, yeah, I wonder how it would taste, as if I have never had it. And so they gave me a little taste of lemonade. And of course, I had an extra large lemonade with my meal. And of course, I paid almost twice as much as I would at McDonald's. And I was happy. Why? I was happy because the old saying goes, the handshake of the host affects the taste of the roast. The way we create this customer-centric experience gives them patience, and it enables them to not worry about the extra $1.50 or $2 we spend on that meal versus at McDonald's. And the model works. So the question
is, Brigham, everybody always wants the cheapest contractor.
I know,
we can't
and
win
they
business
don't want to wait.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So one of the things I wrote down when you were talking about that I think is important and I wanted to highlight is, when you're talking about McDonald's versus Chick-fil-A, it's value versus premium product. And that's the same in everything, right? I think I just had a conversation the other day with somebody about Service Titan. And I said, it's a premium product. There's a premium tag that goes with it, right? So you don't get the best for the cheapest. And I think that's a really good example of when you're running your business, what do you want to be? Do you want to be the McDonald's or do you want to be the Chick-fil-A? And the McDonald's will, they probably will eventually not have people answer the phones. They'll probably, they'll automate all the things where they don't need people to interact with other people. But I can tell you, that's not the business I'm going to do business with. And the proof is, if you go to a Chick-fil-A at lunchtime and you look across the street at McDonald's at lunchtime, who's got the line?
Who has the line? Indeed. That's the question. Yep. So the question is which model do you want? Right? Mm-hmm. Why were PE groups so excited about our industry? I'm willing to bet it's because of the margins.
Yeah.
And the customer-centric feel, right? The experience we create for the customer. We need to guard that experience. You guys, do you remember when we ran away from new construction? And why did we run away from new construction? Because we didn't want to have to put in 15 units a day to make a buck. We only wanted to put in 4 units a day, and we wanted to do it right. So we needed to charge more for those 4 units than we did the 15 units. And that's why we ran away from new construction. Let's not have to relearn the lessons that we've been learning all along. Okay, take for example a call center. If we decide to let AI completely take over our call center, we're going to sound just like everybody else. Okay? So if we submit to endless sameness and sound like everybody else, how do we differentiate ourselves and justify our price? Let's be smart.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do we keep that from happening? How do we maintain our margins? We choose to train agents that act over the phone as well as in the home. Okay. We are the masters. AI supports us. They are the servant that supports us and makes our time easier. But if we allow them to become the masters, trust me, they will come up with robots that are installing soon enough. All right. And we'll work our way out of a job. And that's not why PE groups came into our industry. So instead, we commit ourselves to the Chick-fil-A model. That's what they're doing right now. While everybody else is committing to robots and AI, they're doubling down on their people. It's a model that works.
There's
so
many.
do you want to keep it?
Yeah, there's so many good correlations. Chick-fil-A is like one of my favorite companies to study. I think Kathy Truitt is just phenomenal. How they got to where they were, having core values. I know we talk about that as business owners a lot of times, but are we actually doing it? Like if we have core values, are we really and truly leaning in on them? And again, Chick-fil-A closed on Sundays, which by the way, every Sunday I want Chick-fil-A, but they're closed. So it's amazing that they're like, no, we're closed on Sundays. And sure, they might be giving up some revenue, although truth is they're probably not, because then that's how they stand out. But when Kathy Truitt passed away, that was the question I asked was, are they going to start being open on Sundays? Are they going to lose the core values of what made their business different? And they didn't, thank goodness.
Yes. And it goes against what ChatGPT would say.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know it would, but they were following principles, things that don't come from algorithms. They were following truths. So yeah, at the end of the day, we get to choose. We get to use our agency and decide whether we're going to be the servants or the masters. And thank goodness for examples like Truitt Cathy to show us the way. Isn't it interesting how the timing of that business model came into play to kind of prepare us for all this?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which, in studying those guys too, I mean, they've had quite the evolution of business, and that's what happens. To your point about new construction to service, I mean, they used to be in malls, and then they had these freestanding dwarf houses, and then they went to these, drive-through models. I mean, it's business is business, but certainly when you're educating yourself on different businesses, make sure you're not just in one industry. Look at a lot of different industries. There's so much cool stuff to learn out there.
So much. And I think it just comes down to being present. If a CSR is present in the moment, and as they're talking to a customer, they recognize that customer has specific needs. And I'll give you an example. I just bought this house in Hurricane a couple years ago. And when I first came in, I saw a ton of plumbing things that I needed to fix. The main thing is that I had a tankless water heater that wasn't installed properly. How do I know that? Well, because I didn't get immediate hot water when I turned on the water. It took forever. I was like, no, that's not installed properly because it's not doing what it's supposed to do, right? If you spend the money on Renai, you better make sure it does what it's supposed to do. And so I call a plumber, and the CSR, she was amazing. She is super intuitive. And so as we were talking, she said, well, what else do you need to have done? And I said, well, I don't have a water purification system in my kitchen sink. It would be good if the plumber kind of talked about that. You know what's interesting is I felt somewhat timid to talk about it because, first world problems, like, oh, I need purified water in my, I don't want to feel like a douche. I don't know how else to explain that. You know what I mean? Like a snooty whatever. And as we started talking, all of a sudden we started talking about, humidification. I live in a desert. And she said, you need water connected to those humidifiers when you get them. And you probably ought to have us at least look into that or at least schedule it out so that the plumber can come when the heating and cooling guys come to do that. And then my thought was afterwards is how did she even get that out of me that that's what I wanted to do? In my gym, there's a sink. And I thought, you know what? I go from my pool house to work out. My gym's in my pool house, and I've got to walk outside my house and go into my gym Right now, if I have purified water in my kitchen sink, I actually have to go from one house to the next to get that purified water. It'd be easier if I put purified water in my sink in my gym. So once again, she got that out of me as well, because I don't want to talk about that stuff. I don't want to talk about where my life is at. You know what I mean? I feel bashful about that. I feel weird talking about it. I feel like I'm such a brat. You know what I mean? She got it all out of me. She put it all down.
Yeah.
And then the plumber comes, and he didn't miss a beat. He said, all right, here's what I'm looking at here. It looks like the first thing you want to do is make sure that Renai is installed properly. Sounds like it's not working the way that it should. So you're totally right on there. How did you know that? Well, you know, I'm in the industry, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then he said, looks like you're going to be installing a humidifier. When are you going to do that? I didn't even have a time for that, but he helped me schedule a date with the heating and cooling company so that he could come in the same time and connect the hot water for both of them. And we started planning out when we were going to do the water purification in the kitchen sink, and when we're going to do it in the sink in the pool house in my gym. He went from being a plumber to my plumber. We are agents that should act. And the only reason why AI takes over is because we stop being agents that act. We stop being present in moments and acting in moments. And that will be to our detriment.
Well, and I think that ties back to the quote you read earlier. I mean, we're in a customer-centered industry. We're in a customer-centered business, which good on the customer service for getting that information out of you. But how often do our technicians go into a home and not ask good enough questions? I mean, they literally turned what could have been a $200-300 service call into I'm going to call it $10,000+ job simply by interacting and communicating with the customer. And that all goes to the bottom line.
Yeah. And one of the biggest issues technicians have is believing that it's not their wallet, right? I once said to a technician, why aren't you talking about replacing that unit? He's like, Brigham, my stomach just dropped. Why did your stomach drop? Because the system's only 5 years old. I was like, time out. The technology today is a whole lot more advanced than it was 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about mini splits. The entire world has mini splits before America does. Explain that to me. Okay. Mm-hmm. I can control the temperature of the air inside this room that I'm in right now, if I wanted to, without having to pay for zoning. Why wouldn't you give me that option? Yep. Why are you keeping that from me? And when I put it that way, he was like, oh. I said, dude, you're not letting me shop. Right. You're going to come in, you're going to do the bare minimum. You're going to charge a couple $100 and you're going to leave without letting me know what's possible. Because guess what? You're not paying for it. I am.
When it's a disservice.
If I don't care, yeah, exactly. If I don't care, why do you care? Why? You're not my accountant. You know what I mean? Stay in your lane. So being agents that are present, that recognize the moment, that's what we need. That's what we need. And that's what we should allow AI to help us do, is to become more present than we've ever been before, because we don't have to do all the tracking and the behind the scenes stuff. We can just be there present with the human.
All good stuff. So, Brigham, as we put a bow on this.
Oh, yeah. I've got one more thing to share.
Go ahead. I was going to say, what's another piece of advice? Like, what's a final high-level piece of advice you want to share with the listeners?
So we've talked a lot about body and mind, right? It's an opportunity. AI is an opportunity for us to save time. So let's use it to save time, right? We have the ability to listen to more books than we ever have before and to exercise our minds more than ever before. And we can create time to take care of our bodies like never before. So these are gifts, right? These are free gifts. We didn't earn a body. It was given to us. Mm-hmm. We didn't earn a mind. It was given to us. It's a free gift, right? It's like when we were born, every one of us, independent of our circumstances, we were given a room. It's a free gift. It's a free gift. And all our parents require of us is to what? With that room.
Keep it clean. Keep it organized. Yeah.
Keep it clean. And if we did a good job keeping it clean, it's funny how they were more comfortable with the idea of you having a bike. Why? Because they know, based on the way you took care of the room, that you also take care of the bike. And when you turn 16, you start talking about a car because you're getting a driver's license. They feel a little bit more comfortable with that. Why? Because of the way you took care of your room and the bike. You see, this isn't about love. They love you. It's about trust. It's about trust. And the same thing is true at work. You're given a truck. You didn't have to pay for that truck. You might not even have to pay for the tools inside of it. And all the owner requires is what? Neat and organized. Keep it clean. Take care of it. And funny thing, if you do a good job with that and you start talking about other responsibilities that you would like to take on, the owner is more willing to and open to giving you those opportunities. And next thing you know, you're making more money, not as a byproduct of taking great care of the things that have been given you.
I mean, as the saying goes, how you do something is how you do everything. So
yeah. So what makes you think that God's any different?
Yeah.
It's not about love. He loves you. He loves all of us. It's about trust. It's about trust. And so there's the third thing. And that third thing is our spirits. So what are we doing on a regular basis to exercise the spirit that is inside of us? The thing that's older inside of us than anything else that we've got. So funny thing. So one of the books that I've written, this is the one called Patterned After Excellence. At the end of that book, I talk about the 4 to 5 5. Okay. And in the 4 to 5 5, it starts with 5 F's. And it's not the F words you might think, first. But the first one is faith. Right? We absolutely should be working on our faith. Okay? We should also be forgiving. Right? We're humans. We make mistakes. We're fallible. So we need to forgive ourselves and we need to do a better job of forgiving others. Thirdly, founders. We are the founder of our lives. Remember, we are agents that act. We have agency. It's another free gift that we've been given. The question is what are we doing with it? The fourth one is feel. And I'm just going to read it to you.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I'm getting at as I read it. Okay. So once you become the founder of your life, right? The founder, the next step is to recognize how you feel while in a moment and learn to discern human emotion from truth. Your intuition is more powerful than your intellect. Becoming aware of how you feel in a moment and deciphering it from your instinctive reactionary emotions gives you an incredible advantage over others who cannot. These feelings, whether they speak peace to your mind, warmth to your soul, sudden clarity in obscurity or confusion, or an increase of indescribable love felt, must be attended to. If you are not quiet and paying attention when they occur, they will come and go unnoticed. These feelings are impressions. These feelings or impressions are not mild expressions. Rather, they are pure intelligence being poured into your mind. And there will certainly be times when the discovery of truth cuts you to the very center, painfully severing pride from your soul. Learn to become sensitive to the understanding that comes when you experience these feelings, because important personal change is underway. These impressions will educate your desires, which can work affirmatively in you and for you, for your good and for the good of others. Okay? It's a God thing. And the last F, for those of you who are curious, is finish. Okay? We finish strong. We finish what we start, right? The Apostle Paul said it well, right? I've ended my course. I've kept the faith. I've fought a good fight, right? We are meant to finish strong, right? We learn our lessons. We learn from our mistakes. And we make sure we finish strong. And those are the 4 to 5 5.
That's fantastic. In the show notes, so I'm going to put in here in the show notes how to get in touch with Power Selling Pros if you want to find out more. And I'm also going to put in there the best way to get a copy of the book, whether it is on audio or print. I will put that in there as well, because I actually have not read that book, and that is going to be on my list. So
cool.
Yeah. Awesome. So Brigham, as always, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, hanging out. You've been a big supporter of the show since I started. So just thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping us along this journey. It's been growing and it's very exciting. So genuinely, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.